3, 2, 1. Hello, everybody. We're trying to get another one in the can, so to speak, as they say, so that we'll be set for while I'm gone out of town. So we are going to do today. We're going to do part 3. It'll be the second. Part 3, which will be actually getting into the test. 3 and 4 of the actual testing. We've done our inspections, done all our connections, and now episodes 3 and 4 will be the testing. So we're doing the first part of the testing today. So we'll get to see how you set up on the screen, because this is a 6S, and it can be a little squirrely, but this is also, we have a great example showing pre-test, where you do the pre-test checks, and you look at everything pre-test before you get rolling on it. There's a lot of things you can see pre-test that once you get into the test you can't see. So before we get rolling, of course, I'm going to say a prayer, and then we'll kind of go over the formalities in the beginning and get right into the video. All right? Father, thank you so much for a chance today to not just learn our craft better, but also, more importantly, hopefully someone will gain something out of this that will keep them out of trouble and get them home safe to their families, and they'll make all the right connections and look at things correctly from a safety standpoint before they get into the equipment. And Father, right now there's a lot of crazy stuff going on in this world, but we say it all the time. I mean, like my buddy and my Bill McCrillis, my good buddy, says all the time, it's got to get worse before Jesus comes. So we know it's supposed to get bad. It's just not much fun to live in it, be part of it some days, but especially when you mess up and actually watch just a tiny bit of that news. But anyway, we've got all this stuff going on in the Ukraine. There's no telling where it'll be now, because remember, I'm in the future here on this webinar. But Father, we just lift all of that up to you. There are videos now of Christians over in the Ukraine huddled down in basements and things, singing hymns and praying. And we're now getting to see that persecution that you talk to us about in your word, and tell us that it's coming and it's here. And you talk about wars and pestilence, and that's here. And but also that persecution, Lord. But in the midst of all that, it really made an impression on me. In Luke 21:13, it says, but in the midst of all this stuff, it'll give us a chance to give our testimony. So we're going to show not what we stand for, but who we stand for, Lord, in the middle of all this. So in the middle of all this, we certainly look up to you, lift our eyes to you, Lord, because right now, looking at the world, it doesn't look too pretty. So if it causes more people to come to you, to put their dependence on you, to understand who is in control really of everything, not these folks that stand up there at the podiums and the microphones, then it'll be worth it, Lord, because we're in this for the long haul. And we're looking for the long-term payoff, which is eternity in heaven with you and your precious Son, Jesus, who, without him, I couldn't even pray right now. So all of these things I ask and say, according to the will of the one who paid it all, my brother, Jesus Christ. Amen. Sorry about the phone. Okay, so we, as you always know, we say it over and over again, we're going to, after Auburn, I think you've seen just how awesome these benches are and what you can do with them. So we will, if you need to, we can absolutely set up some private training for you. Just give us a holler. So what we're going to do is we're going to set up an integrated site test. We're going to do our pre-test checks. Remember, we talk about that. We'll discuss a little bit the Connect View versus Meter View. Again, I can't assume you've seen other webinars, so we'll talk about that. We'll talk about that whole primary versus secondary comparison, which tells us different issues at the site, the difference between a primary issue and a secondary issue with our CTs. So we'll go through that. So without further ado, we will go ahead and get started. And then once we get in there, I'll start jumping in and running my gums like I usually do. So let's roll. Okay, so looking right here, it looks like Brown's got us loaded up with a 6 demo. So you can see here, he's got everything filled out. So you can see here, and I don't really go into this, but when you're loading it in, of course, you're going to, the big thing that we run into in the field is choosing our service and service type, right? So here, you have to make sure you get the correct number of voltages and currents, okay? And in this case, we had 2 voltages and 3 currents. We're going to talk about it here in a little while. We're using B as a reference phase. We're referencing off B. Always make sure you'll get rolling on this stuff. When you enter that stuff in to create an integrated site test, you might end up in putting a site in there. When you're putting the site in, if you don't put that case of T in there, it will default to 1. And you'll get a crazy registration number. You know, how the heck did that happen? You go back and look, and it's showing 1 instead of 1.8. So you have to enter that in there, okay? So you have to enter in the 1.8 for transform rated meter. It's right on the face of that meter as well. And so you would put that in there. But always make sure you get the right service and service types here. Another key on these service and service types is the number of CTs that you have. And on that one, it says PC. So there could be different numbers of CTs being used for the same service. But remember, you could look on that PC on there and look for that number there. In my P-brain, always the way I keep it is the primary current PCs is I look for the number of it's the number of primary currents you're reading. Okay, so that's going to be the number of CTs you have. So you may have 2 on one side, 3 on another, but with the same service. Okay, so you need to pick the correct service type right here. Top, remember you only have to have the top part of this thing filled out, and you can already start testing. So we're going to go ahead and. One quick thing that just popped in my P-brain. Right here also is a really important feature if you want to use it, and it shows where you can do your next test. So you can actually set up so that through the database management system that we have, that you can set up when do I want to do my next test on this. If this is one of your high rev sites, a high revenue site, you may want to test it every year. So you can set it up right here, and then you can go in the database management system and say, what test do I have coming up? So instead of, so you can do a little pre-planning, right? So you can say, if I put it in here a year from now, I want to test this site. A month before that time, if you said, like in this case, if I put in, I believe this was in April, if we put, okay, April, if I said, okay, because it starts out 6 months, okay, and then it goes from there, it goes year, year, year. So the first one is going to be 6 months, as you can see from here, and April, May, June, July, just wanted to check. I'm just kidding. So it's going to go 6 months for the first one, and then like I said, after that, it's going to be April of the next year, and then April of the next, April of the next. So that way, if you have some of your lower revenue sites, you may want to test them every 3 or 5 years. But if it's one of your big customers, remember, when they're out, it costs you a lot more money because they're a much larger load on the system. So you'd probably want to check them every year. You could put it in there right here, and then that way you would know ahead of time, I know I got that one coming out of the big sawmill. Employees have to be in town. It's a huge load for us. We probably want to check that thing every year. Save and select. No, wait a minute. Yep, so you've already got it in there, so we're going to go save and select. I know I'm pointing out a lot of stuff here.
Start over.
Okay.
No.
We good?
Yeah.
Go ahead. Okay. So the 2 different saves, because remember, I can't assume everybody's seen all of them. You have save and select and then save and exit. Save and select is when you create a site like this and you want to go to that site. If you're entering just a bunch of sites and getting them loaded up, you would go save and exit and go to the next one. Save and exit, go to the next one. But when I do save and select, it will now go to the one you just created right here. And then you'll see soon enough up in the upper right-hand corner, it always tells you what site you're on. So now it's going to go to this one we have created. It'll take the site ID right here, and it'll throw it up here. So in a second, it should show 6. Yep. So you can see where, and we talk about it all the time, I'm sure you're sick of hearing me saying it, you can put in technicians' names or any notes. We're not going to put anything in there. So we're going to go ahead and just hit that popular F6 button. And now here's my menu for this site that he created, that 6th demo. And we're going to, there's my menu for that. And we're going to go ahead and do an integrated site test, which is going to give me a customer load test on the. Again, won't make any assumptions here. So you have integrated site test, which is where you can go from one test to the next. You can customize it. The default on there will be a customer load test on, and then T's we do a burden and rate. You can test just the meter here, choosing 3. You can test just CTs or PTs with 4. Here's where you can get out of this site and go to another one. Utilities are where you make you can make adjustments as to what's pass or fail, delays, brightness of the screen, all those things. And 7 is where when you're finished I just recommend the guys in the field always take a quick look, make sure everything was saved on the machine. Never know if you fat fingered something. Or remember, we're going to look at this pre-test stuff here in a second, and you can look at a lot of things and capture them. You can save them. So you can stop and save high harmonics, a bad phase angle, which gives you a bad power factor. All of these things you can save pre-test, and you would want to make sure, oh, I was going to grab the harmonics on this one. So you can look at that real quick before you make all your disconnects from all the cables.
Meter, and it's going to give me a ratio test on those CTs. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and hit 2.
Wait a minute there. Let's look at the vectors.
Ah, you want to look at the vectors first?
Let's look at the vectors there.
Why would we want to look at the vectors first?
Okay. Oh, no. Wait, let's get his hand out of the way. You're right.
Just
there you go. Okay. So, evidently, Bryland's listened to me a little bit. Unbelievable. But here are the hot buttons down the right side of the screen right here. Okay, so pre-test, before you start into the test, if you hit any of these buttons, it's going to be a live display here of what's going on, load changing and live right there at the site. You're going to see all that on here. The other thing is you're going to notice a lot more selections at the bottom of the screen that you don't have once you go into the test. I can't assume you guys have seen the other webinars where I've mentioned it. The good thing is any of these you take a look at, which when you hit these, like on the vector right here in a second, you'll see you can go connect view, meter view. You can change toggle between primary and secondary current, things like that. Same thing when you look at the RMS tables here, which you can see all of the, in tabular form, you can see all these different values live. You can toggle again, primary, secondary, and look at things. And then you can look at your harmonics here in a graph form, a bar graph. It'll show harmonics here at the bottom of the screen. It'll show total harmonic distortion, voltage, and then under it will be the current. So you can check those numbers. Now, let's say you saw something that was too high at this site and you need to talk to the customer about it. You can stop and save, and that'll be on the database. It'll be on the reports and things. So this way, pre-test, you have all those selections. Once you go into the test, those aren't available to you, okay? So that's why I get it normally set up. I get my customer load test, my integrated site test all ready to go to the point I'm ready to hit go, and then that's when I start looking at these. So when I've done my pre-check and looked at any of these I want to look at, including my waveforms here, which when they get choppy, of course, are going to show some harmonics. When I look at all of these and nothing looks squirrely to me, I just hit previous right here and hit my previous button. When I hit that previous button, it'll take me back to that screen where I'm ready to start my integrated site test. But I've already got everything loaded there, including I've got the double wrap box checked. I've got my 30 seconds or my 3 revs, of course, which I preach in, because if there's a light load, it'll once it sees either 30 seconds and has at least 1 good pulse, it'll complete the test. Or if it has a good load on it and goes through 3 pulses, it'll complete the test. So all of those things are loaded on there. All of that's already on there. So once I hit previous, it goes right back to that. I hit old popular F6 and just start the test.
make sure that everything looks good, and voltage and current, everything like that. Make sure your vectors look the way they're supposed to look. You can hit that reference button whenever it shows up, and it'll give you an idea of what they're...
That's right. Let's do that then. Now the reason why he's saying that is a couple of reasons. One, and we keep talking about it and talking about it and talking about it, and that is before you actually start into the test, because I have 3 flexes on there now, I can see my primary current as well as my secondary current. So I can detect if someone had put in a CT backwards, right, I would see a problem on the primary, but if I just went in there and ran a CT test, remember we say this over and over and over, the secondary follows the primary. So if I had a problem on my primary, the secondary would follow and I wouldn't see the problem. So I need to look at the primary current. So what he's saying is, let's look at this thing first, and now you can see I can toggle and look at my primary. So you can see here where I can change it on F4, I can look at my primary. So let's take a look at that primary and see what it looks like. Did I see a change in it? No. So my primary current and my secondary current both look good. I don't see any kind of a polarity reversal or problem on my primary. So when I go to my primary and then go back to my secondary again, What you looking at now?
I just hit connect view to look and see how everything looks around through there. It just shows you another way of looking at on your other screen. It didn't show the primary for B. It had the average put in there. So on this, it splits it up between your A, B, and C. So you can see on there now your A is 175. If I'm reading that correctly, I'm upside down.
So what's going on here is, and you've heard me say it a million times, you have two different views. And now I have the ability to do it because I'm pre-test. I have all these extra tabs here. I can look connect view versus meter view. Meter view is when the meter does its math. We jokingly say the meter math on the inside of it. So in this case, it's using B as a reference. So that's when we see things like, and we'll see it here in a second, we'll see the current is AB, right? Because it's using B as a reference phase, okay? But when you hit connect view right here, it shows you a few things. One, it shows you actually, yes, I do actually connect I put my duckbill in there, connect B. I also, as you can see, my primary B phase current now, I also put a flex around B phase as well. So I do make that connection. But before that, remember, you didn't see that. You just saw this right here. So if you just looked at those, it would look like you don't even connect to B phase. Because all I'm showing is, if I'm just thinking colors, all I'm seeing is red and blue. That's A and C to me when I know the Powermetrix colors. So I'm just saying, oh, I'm just on A and C. No, you are also on B phase. And in a second, when I go to the meter view, it's going to show AB and BC. And we've said before, if there's more than one letter there, it's using that phase as a reference. Okay? So then that means, but the physical connection, I do make a physical connection right there on my current on B phase. Both primary with my flex, I have a flex on B phase, and then in a second when we go to the secondary on this, it'll also show up on there on the connect view, and that means I actually have a duckbill in there. So it shows me the connection here, and that's why now it's showing a current A, a current B, and a current C. Here in a minute when we hit meter view, it's going to show, that's not going to be there, and it's going to show AB and BC over here, okay, because it's using B as a reference, all right? And here also, it'll give you an actual reading of it here on the connect view. It actually shows you a value for it, but that's not even shown there.
Then B is going to be 71, and then your C down there is 158. So if you go back to the meter view right here, you can see where it brings it back up to 202 and 198 on your primary, and that's just the average right there of A and B and C right there.
So let's talk about
See, like we're saying right now, we have AB, CB right here, right? So now this is what the meter's doing on the inside. It's using B as a reference, and so this is how the meter's doing its math, okay? And you see now, we don't have anything for B phase right here, right? We're missing that was showing up there earlier when we went to
about what he just said. So what he's saying is he connected to B phase with his duckbill. So we're looking at B phase, but what does the meter see? The meter doesn't see that. What the meter sees, we look right here, and it creates that. You can see right here, it says AB, right, and CB, right, because it's using B as a reference. So we do have a connect. He looked at connect view, and it showed us connected with this duckbill right here, connected to, right, B phase on my current. But what the meter's actually doing is it's using that as a reference, right? So some of those using them as a reference. So it says we got an AB and a BC using B as a reference on here. Okay, so you can actually look at the meter view or the connect view. And connect view shows, yeah, we have connected to B phase, so we can see B phase. When we go over here and look at the meter view now and see what the meter's seeing, we've got an BCB and an AB, because we've used B as a reference. So both A and C phases are referencing off of B phase, okay? So you can look at not only what the meter sees, but you can look at your actually connected view, all right? Good deal. So we'll go back and now we'll look at the secondary. So now looking at the secondary, now we're looking, you can see over here, we're looking at the secondary voltage and current. It has SVA and SIAB. So now it's looking at secondary voltage, A, and then secondary current, AB. Again, it's AB and CB because we're using B as that reference, okay?
Show them the connect view on that also.
Hey man, I'm operating the buttons over here. What are you doing over here? All right. So you see where it, once again, this is just a guy that's been doing it a long time like Brian has. He's done a ton of these things. You want to look at all this just to make sure you don't see something squirrely, right? Because when you look at the actual connect view on both sides, primary and secondary, something might jump out at you, okay? So that is another great tool that he's showing you right there. You got the difference between meter view and connect view, okay? Because I am connected on B phase, but the meter, the way that it's doing it, using B as a reference, what the meter sees is that meter view where it's showing just the two sets of vectors on A and C, and it's showing an AB and a BC. Nice. Okay? There was our primary. Nice. All right. Okay. So now we've looked at that. We looked at the primary. We didn't see anything funky on the primary. We didn't see anything really crazy between meter and connect view. Everything looks okay there. Primary versus secondary, we didn't see anything skewed on that to make us think we have a problem on the primary side. So now we can go ahead and start into things. Okay? So now we are back at our menu. We're on the site that Brian created, which is that 6 demo site. Here's my menu for it. Okay? So we're going to go into that. We're going to do an integrated site test because Brian's looked at everything on the front end of it.
So remember, I don't do it this way. Prowling around one, got hitting buttons a little bit too much. I would already have the site in there, and I would have, I'm on my, my integrated site test. I check my double wrap box if I've double wrapped. I have my 30 seconds or 3 revs. I'm ready to start that test and hit F6. That's when I go down the right side here, do the checks like we just did, so that when I've checked everything and I like everything, it looks cool, then I just hit previous. It goes right back to that screen, ready to start the test, and everything, my box for my double rack's already checked, my 30 seconds and 3 revs is in there, and I'm ready to roll.
Doesn't see anything squirrely that will make him think that maybe we've got an issue so far, so we can go ahead and continue into the test.
Excuse me, I'm trying to sneeze, and I did. Okay, I've been trying to sneeze for half an hour. So you can see we're ready to finally get into the test. So we've really checked everything thoroughly at this site. This is probably one of the best. I was telling JP, this is one of the best for just thoroughness of checking everything beforehand. I mean, by the time we get done with this site, I can assure you that we feel good about it. So if you want to get us to give you any kind of private training on anything, just get a hold of JP, going on the website. But most importantly, y'all be careful out there, all right? God bless y'all. Thanks a lot. We appreciate all the support. Thank you for all the comments and compliments. JP does some great work on this stuff. And out there in the field, it was amazing, the camera work and everything, and the work that Brown did and stuff. So anyway, y'all be careful out there, and we will see you in the future again next week. I've lost how far we are out now. I think it's Easter now. No, I'm kidding. Anyway, we'll see you.